My parents didn't just stand by while my sister destroyed my daughter's hair. They cheered her on. They thought they could use my 11-year-old's pain to win a pageant prize. But by sunrise the next morning, they were the ones pounding on my door, desperate for me to stop. I'm Olivia, and this is how I dismantled my family's toxic legacy, one boundary at a time. Before I tell you how it started, I want to ask you something. Have you ever watched a room full of adults do absolutely nothing while a child begged them to stop? Comment me below if you have. I read every single one. And stay until the end, because the final piece of this story is the part nobody in my family saw coming. My daughter Poppy's scream cut through her cousin's birthday party like a knife. My sister Whitney held her down in a back bedroom while a stylist kept cutting. When Poppy finally broke free and ran across the lawn, both hands clutching what was left of her waist-length hair, hacked unevenly above the ears. My own mother turned to 19 watching adults and said calmly, like she was commenting on the weather, "Good, now she won't steal the attention from Brinley. She's always been too much." 19 adults. Nobody moved. Nobody said my daughter's name. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I picked Poppy up, walked out the door, and drove away. What none of them knew, what they wouldn't understand until they were pounding on my door the next morning, was that the before photo they needed for their pageant scam had just become the biggest mistake of their lives. I'm 36. I own a small flower shop in Charlotte. My husband Nolan was an EMT who died on the interstate 3 years ago when a truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Poppy was 7. She's 11 now, and she's been drawing since she was 7.5, every menu, every window sign at my shop. She keeps the money she earns from selling her drawings in a little glass jar. Last spring, that jar had $312 in it. She wouldn't tell me what she was saving for. If you ask my mother, Bev, what I do for a living, she'd tell you I'm still doing that little flower thing. She's never once walked into my shop. Not once, in 6 years. My father Roy visits twice a year, quietly, and hands me a folded 20 for the parking meter, which is free. He doesn't say much. He hasn't said much since before I can remember. Here's the ledger. The one only I ever seem to be keeping. My mother called me the difficult one at 6 years old. She called my sister Whitney her little sunshine at 4. My husband noticed it the very first Christmas he came to my parents' house. He didn't say anything to Bev. He said it to me on the drive home. Your father knows. He just doesn't know what to do about it yet. He died a month later. My mother didn't come to his funeral. She sent a card with a Bible verse and a note saying she wasn't up to it emotionally. After that, I stopped going to Sunday dinners. Whitney told everyone I was unwell. I let her. What none of them knew, what I never told a soul, was that in March, a woman named Bianca Ashford had started coming into my flower shop every Wednesday, picking up peonies for a regional pageant company she ran. She noticed Poppy sketching a portrait of her father from memory. Bianca asked who it was. "That's my dad," Poppy said, without looking up. "I draw him every year so I don't forget his face." Bianca didn't say a word. She pulled $500 bills from her wallet and bought 4 of Poppy's drawings, no questions asked, and left her business card on the counter. President, Carolina Crown Productions. I put that card in a drawer. Whitney had no idea it existed. She had no idea that in 6 weeks she'd try to build her entire career off my daughter's pain without knowing who I already knew. My sister is 2 years younger than me. My mother has told the story of Whitney's difficult birth at every Christmas dinner for 30 years, the beginning in Bev's telling of Whitney's specialness. Whitney quit her accounting job in 2023 to become a full-time content mom. By this spring, her Instagram had 38,000 followers. A sponsorship agency she paid over $1,000 a month to broker fake brand deals, and 3 secret credit cards carrying a combined balance of over $41,000 her husband Tanner knew nothing about. Her daughter Brinley had entered 4 pageants and never placed. Then a new division opened, the Miracle Makeover. Contestants submit a before photo, a professional after photo, and win $15,000 in scholarship money. Whitney registered Brinley and paid the $4,000 entry fee from an account that wasn't actually a joint account with Tanner. The rules required an unretouched before photo, with the right to demand verification within 7 days. Whitney had already submitted a photoshopped one. 4 days before that verification deadline, she sent a stylist named Jolene, a woman who'd known Whitney since 10th grade, $275 with the memo line, "Poppy trim." Then she set up a burner Google Voice number and texted Jolene, pretending to be me. "Hi, this is Olivia. Poppy would love a little makeover trim at the party. It's a surprise. Don't mention it. My real number hasn't changed since 2013. Whitney never thought anyone would check. The invitation came through the family group text. Poppy read it over my shoulder. "Mom, they always leave me out. Maybe this year is different." My father, the only person who reacted at all, liked her message with a little green heart. That was it. That was the entire warmth this family had to offer my daughter. And I noticed it, and I still didn't think hard enough about what it meant. The night before the party, Poppy asked me to braid her hair the way her dad used to, a fishtail braid Nolan taught himself off tutorials the summer she turned 6. It took me 22 minutes and 3 tries. She fell asleep with a drawing of her father on her pillow. The morning of the party, Whitney texted asking me to bring Poppy an hour early for a surprise photo for Brinley. She'd never once, in 8 years, asked to include Poppy in anything. I asked what kind of photo. She replied in 6 seconds, "Just trust me for once, Liv. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I did too." 8 years of trying to lower the temperature in every conversation with my sister. And I decided one more small effort at family peace couldn't possibly hurt. I was wrong. And the next 20 minutes are going to make you furious, but stay with me, because what happens after is worth every second of it. We arrived at Whitney's house at 1:07, rose gold balloons on the mailbox, a chalkboard sign reading, "Brinley's Enchanted Turning 8. My mother met me at the door in a lilac dress, said Whitney had a fun surprise planned for Poppy in the back with a stylist. My father was sitting alone on the patio, thinner than I remembered, coughing dryly. My mother, without even turning to look at him, said, "It's the pollen. Don't fuss." At 2:13, my mother pulled me into the kitchen to help plate the cake and kept me there for 25 minutes, talking about family healing and how difficult I'd made things by pulling away after Nolan died. She was mid-sentence about some story from 1998 when I heard something muffled down the hall. "Where's Poppy?" I asked. "She's fine. Dress-up thing," I asked again. She kept talking about 1998. I walked out mid-sentence. The back bedroom door was open. Poppy was standing in the doorway, hands clamped over her ears, scissors on the vanity behind her. My sister, standing with one hand on the back of a salon chair, pageant music playing through a Bluetooth speaker. Poppy's face was streaked with mascara, the pink ribbon from her braid lying on the floor. The stylist, Jolene, was sitting frozen on an ottoman, staring at the scissors she'd put down 40 seconds too late, having only just realized the text she'd received wasn't actually from me. Whitney looked at me and said brightly, "Oh my God, she's so dramatic." Poppy pushed past me and ran, through the kitchen, out onto the lawn. 19 adults stopped talking. She stood in the middle of the grass, both hands on her ears. My mother followed at what she thought was a dignified pace, looked at my daughter standing there destroyed, and said, "To the guests, not to Poppy." "Good. Now she won't steal the attention from Brinley. She's always been too much anyway." 2 guests looked away. 3 laughed nervously. Nobody said her name. Nobody stood up. I walked across that yard. I didn't run. I knelt in front of Poppy, asked if she could walk. She shook her head. I picked her up, 72 pounds, and carried her past the cupcake table, past my mother, who didn't move from the doorway until I was already through it, past Whitney, reaching out, saying, "Liv, come on, it's just hair." I didn't stop. I didn't look at her. At the front door, my father was already there. He'd walked around through the side gate. He opened my car door, waited until Poppy was buckled, and put his hand on my shoulder, the first time he'd touched me on purpose in 4 years. "Take care of her," he said. I'll take care of the rest. If you're sitting there right now thinking about a room where nobody stood up for you or your child, drop the word me in the comments. I see you, and stay with me, because the next 24 hours are where this family's entire foundation cracked apart. The drive home was 22 minutes of silence. Poppy fell asleep from sheer shock somewhere around a red light where, absurdly, an ad for a regional beauty pageant played through another car's open windows. She woke up near our house, looked at herself in the visor mirror, and asked, "Do I look ugly now?" I pulled over. I climbed into the passenger seat and held her for 3 minutes before I could speak. "You look like you," I told her. "That's the whole answer." She asked if her dad would be sad. "Yes," I said, "and he would be so, so proud of you for asking them to stop." That night, I washed what was left of her hair with the good shampoo, combed it with the horn-handled comb Nolan bought her the summer before he died, and evened out the worst of it with my kitchen herb scissors. It wasn't professional, but when I was done, it looked like a haircut, not an attack. At 9:15, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. A text, "This is Jolene Hatcher. Whitney gave me this number. Something isn't right about what I was told today. I've already called my lawyer. Please, when you can." I called her back. She cried for 2 minutes before she could speak. Then she told me everything. The burner text pretending to be me, the $275 payment memoed, Poppy trim. Whitney's claim that Poppy diva fakes for the camera. By the time I understood, Jolene said, I had already cut off 8 inches. I'm reporting myself to the state board Monday morning. I'll testify to anything you need. She sent me 3 pieces of proof: the fake text thread, the payment record, a rental receipt for the salon chair, all in Whitney's name, all dated well in advance. I opened my laptop and wrote to Bianca Ashford, not asking her for anything, just telling her the truth and attaching what Jolene had sent. I sent it at 10:32. She replied in 8 minutes. "Call me now." I called. She let me talk for 4 minutes without interrupting. Then, "Olivia, listen carefully. I know exactly who Whitney is. Send me the stylist's statement before 9 tomorrow morning." Then she added something I wasn't expecting. "The 4 drawings I bought in March, that wasn't personal. That was a scout call. I'd already flagged your daughter as our lead illustrator before I knew any of you were related. I was going to send you the offer next week. That offer still stands, regardless of anything else that happens tonight. I didn't sleep, and neither, it turned out, did anyone else connected to this mess. Down the road, Whitney's husband Tanner came home from his shift, went looking for children's medicine, and found 3 credit cards spilled out of his wife's purse, none of which he recognized. Behind them, a receipt for a $4,200 pageant entry fee. He called the card company. Outstanding balance, $14,880. He sat at the kitchen table in silence and didn't knock on the bedroom door. He just started making notes on his phone. 2 doors down, a neighbor named Ashley, who'd filmed 44 seconds of the whole thing on her phone without me even knowing, sent that footage to 3 places at once. To me, to Bianca Ashford, and to a verified child advocacy account with over 300,000 followers. At 12:20 in the morning, my phone rang again. My father calling from the ER. He told me, in a voice slower than I'd ever heard from him, that he'd been diagnosed with stage 2A lung cancer back in February, and my mother had asked him not to tell me because I was still fragile from Nolan's death. He'd agreed. He'd regretted it every day since. Then he told me something else. He discovered my mother had quietly pulled $8,650 out of his HSA, his cancer treatment account, mislabeling every withdrawal as copay or prescription. None of it had gone to his treatment. Every dollar had funded Whitney's pageant fees. "I'm not asking you to fix anything," he said. "I'm asking you to know." He signed himself out of the ER against medical advice and showed up at my front door at 6:14 the next morning, soaked from the rain, carrying a folder of paperwork and a Ziploc bag of instant oatmeal. 45 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. My mother in a lilac raincoat. Whitney behind her holding a manila folder. Tanner at the bottom of the steps holding printed credit card statements, staring at the porch railing instead of his wife. My mother started talking about family the second she stepped inside, until she saw my father sitting at my kitchen table. She stopped cold. Whitney, not having noticed him yet, was already unfolding her folder. "Liv, I need you to sign this. It's just a misunderstanding statement." My father cleared his throat. Whitney froze mid-sentence. "Sit down," he said. "All of you." Tanner laid the printed statements on the table. $41,280, Whit. That's just 3 cards. What else is there? Whitney didn't answer. My father opened his own folder and laid 4 printed transaction pages on the table, one by one, like dealing cards. January 12th, 15th of February, 18th of March, 10th of April, $8,650. Coded as copay, coded as prescription. Not $1 of it was medical. Every single one of it was Whitney's. My mother's face did the thing faces do when they realize they've been caught on camera. "You knew the money came from Dad's HSA," Tanner said quietly to his wife. "You knew he had cancer." Whitney didn't answer that either. That's when a small sound came from the stairs. Poppy, in her father's old flannel pajamas, hair freshly combed, carrying her little blue glazed jar. She walked past my mother without looking at her, past Whitney without looking at her. She set the jar down in front of her grandfather. "Grandpa, I heard you coughing at Thanksgiving. I've been saving. It's for whatever the medicine costs. I know it's not enough." My father put his hand over the jar. "Sweetheart," he said, "it's more than enough." My mother said, "Poppy, come here, honey." Poppy didn't turn around. "Don't speak to her," my father said. Then, to my mother directly, "You took $8,650 out of an account meant for chemotherapy. Don't tell me what you meant. Tell me who you meant it for." "I did what I thought was best for the family," my mother said. "You did what you thought was best for one of your daughters." That's when Whitney's phone started going off. Call after call, then email after email. She read the first one aloud, her voice shaking. Her pageant registration had just been permanently revoked. Her family banned from every Carolina Crown Productions event for 3 years. Final, non-appealable. "How does she already know?" Whitney asked. "It's Monday. It's 8 in the morning." "Because I told her at 10 last night," I said. Tanner stood up, set his own house keys on the table in front of his wife, and said quietly, "Take Brinley to my sister's. I'm not coming home tonight." At the door, he turned to my mother. "I don't know what your husband decides today, but if he wants a spare bedroom, mine's empty. If he needs anything at all, he calls me, not you." He walked out. Whitney slid the manila folder toward me one more time. "Liv, please, if you just sign—" I tore it in half. Not dramatically, the way you tear a receipt. "There's no misunderstanding to statement about," I said. My mother stood to leave. My father stopped her at the door. "Say what you came to say to your granddaughter, or leave. Those are your 2 doors." My mother looked at Poppy. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, I didn't—" "That's not enough," my father said. "I didn't know." "That's not true either." She left. Whitney paused at the door and said quietly, "You didn't have to do this." "You cut my daughter's hair off in a locked room, Whit. It was just—" "Say the sentence out loud. Say it was just hair." She didn't. She left too. My father watched the door close. "That took 40 years, he said. "I know," I said. By that afternoon, the wins started stacking up. Small, satisfying, one after another. Carolina Crown's board voted 5-0 to permanently ban Whitney and her daughter from every future event. The children's shampoo brand Whitney had been courting for sponsorship pulled out entirely. Her sponsorship agency demanded $3,600 back in unearned retainer fees. By 1 o'clock that afternoon, her influencer account had lost over 6,000 real followers, people who'd watched the anonymous 44-second clip and quietly walked away. That evening, my father called my mother on speakerphone from my kitchen and laid out 4 conditions. She'd return the stolen HSA money within 60 days, transfer their joint savings into an account in his name alone, never contact Poppy except through me, and only if Poppy initiated it, and accept that he'd be living at my house for the duration of his treatment while their marriage was on hold for reevaluation in the fall. You don't have to sign, he told her. If you don't, I file for divorce Tuesday. If you do, we talk in the fall. She signed all 4 conditions within days. Bianca sent one more email that morning, this one addressed directly to Poppy, a formal offer, lead illustrator for the entire 2027 Carolina Crown calendar. Full credit on every page. $8,500 for 6 approved pieces. This offer has stood on my desk since March, Bianca wrote. I'm only sorry it took me this long to send it. Poppy read it 3 times. Can I say yes? She asked. Even to the whole calendar? Yes, I told her. 2 weeks later, we held a small exhibit at my flower shop, 8 of Poppy's drawings, priced by Poppy herself in her own handwriting. Bianca was the first person through the door and bought 3. Tanner brought Brinley, who stood silently holding hands with Poppy in front of a drawing of 2 girls on a swing set. Jolene came too, having already reported herself to the state board and shut down her salon booth to start over somewhere clean. She bought the smallest drawing in the room. Thank you for letting me come, was all she said. My mother didn't come. Whitney didn't come. I didn't invite them. By the end of that night, every single drawing had sold. Poppy taped a handwritten "sold out" sign in the window, and she didn't smile because of the sales. She smiled because when she turned around, her grandfather was still sitting in his folding chair in the corner, still breathing, still watching her. Grandpa, she said, I'm going to draw you next. My father moved into my living room permanently that spring. We ordered a hospital bed. Poppy reads to him every night. He learned, badly, but he tried, to braid her hair the way her father used to. Here's what I've learned since that Sunday afternoon. A boundary isn't a punishment. It's a door you get to close and a lock you get to own. If you've ever been told that protecting yourself or your child was making a scene, I want you to know you weren't wrong. They were. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have signed that misunderstanding statement to keep the peace, or torn it in half the way I did? Comment, sign, or tear it below, and tell me where you're watching from. If this story hit you, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.